Hey everyone, it's GigaDB. So I've been sitting on this deck for a little while now, and I wanted to share with you this monstrosity before the ban list goes up and rightfully kills this deck. I present to you HalqDon Adventure FTK. I was inspired by one of DK's old videos showcasing a one-card FTK with HalqDon and Cupid Pitch and thought, well, what if you could do that all with Protection by Griffin Rider? And this is what I came up with. So I all know that HalqDon can make powerful boards with 100 negates, but what if we could take it a step further and just simply not give them a turn? So this deck aims to use Time Wizard of Tomorrow, Black Garden, and Cupid Pitch to FTK the opponent. By doing some damage with Cupid Pitch's effect and searching Speed Burst Dragon, you can ensure that even if you lose Time Wizard of Tomorrow's coin toss, you can use Speed Burst Dragon's effect to inflict the damage back to the opponent. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's get into it. So let's go a little out of order here. First, we have our starters. So we have the 3 Plague Spreader Zombie. We have the 3 Carbonetton. And we have the 3 Fossil Digs to grab the Carbonetton. So we're playing essentially 9 copies of our 1-card starters that make Halq just by themselves. Also note that this is not a true 1-card FTK. It's actually 1.5 card FTK, 1.5 card FTK because it requires a discard. So you do need one other card in hand in order for this play to go through, and Plague Spreader will obviously require an additional card. But Plague Spreader is actually pretty nice in this deck because you can, shuffle back any garnets that you draw, and there are a decent amount of garnets. So next up, we have the Adventure Engine. Pretty standard. We have your double Water Enchantress. You got your Griffin Rider. You got Foolish Burial. You got 2 copies of Rite of Aramis here. You got 1 Draco back. And we got, of course, Fateful Adventure. Now, Foolish Burial, while I do consider it part of the Adventure Engine, you can also use it to send something like Plague Spreader Zombie or Carbonetton to start your combo as well if you already drew the Adventure Engine. So it's extremely good in this deck for sure. Next, we have the Soft Garnets. So these cards suck to draw, but you can still complete the combo if you draw them. Usually you would just search them out or use them as part of the combo. So we have Galaxy Serpent. We need that for the Carbonetton Engine. And next we have Jet Synchron. Need that to summon off of Halq. But Halq can summon from hand, so not a problem if you draw it. Next we have Zafraxi, Treasure of the Yangzing. So this will be searched off of Danglong as part of the combo. Again, so if you draw it, it's not a huge deal. You just don't have to search with Danglong. Next, we have Speed Burst Dragon. So Speed Burst Dragon is part of the FTK. Technically, you don't actually need it, but you need it to ensure the FTK is not just a coin toss. And then that's it for the Soft Garnet monsters. So we have also Sword Soul Sacred Summit. This card does kind of suck to draw because you don't actually play that many worms, even though it is a monster born for Sword Soul or worms. But again, we do search that as part of the combo. And finally, we have Black Garden. Black Garden actually isn't as bad to draw because even though it would normally be searched as part of the combo, you can kind of use it as a way to insulate your plays. So you can start summoning monsters and give your opponent a token, for example, and then they can't infinite impermanence you. So it's actually not that bad to draw. Sometimes it's actually pretty helpful. And finally, we have the Hard Garnets. So if you draw these, you cannot complete the FTK unless you have Plague Spreader Zombie, but you can still make a pretty decent board, at least a couple of negates or Colossus, depending on what you draw. So first we have Chi-Wen, not as bad to draw. You can make a 2 to 3 negate board. Next we have Mecha Fan Beast O-Line, probably the worst to draw. Depending on your hand, you can still make a pretty good board if you draw the Adventure Engine too. But if you just draw O-Lion, for example, you can't really do much besides maybe Boarload and Colossus, but that's still okay. So yeah, definitely the worst of the 3 hard garnets to draw. And next we have Sword Soul of Taya. Similar story to Chi-Wen. It's not that bad of a card to draw. You can still make a couple of negates. So next up, I have 14 flex slots in the deck. So you can play whatever you want. I choose to play a suite of hand traps, Called by the Grave, Crossout Designator, all that, stuff to stop Max C, etc. as well as the Nemesis Corridor, so I'll go through that. So we have the Effect Veiler. One Effect Veiler, cross out target, one Max C, cross out target. You lose pretty hard to this card if it resolves, so you need to play as many outs as possible. Double Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, good for against the Adventure Engine. Triple Ash Blossom, just a generically good hand trap, and also stops Max C, which we lose to. Next, we have the Nemesis Corridor. This is kind of like the backup plan, really. You never need this as part of the combo or anything, but in the case where you draw a Garnet, it strengthens the power of the board you can make. And if you already drew Speed Burst Dragon, it's another card to add, although you can also search Carbonetta into. It's pretty good, I think. I think it's worth playing just the one card in the main deck for it, even though it can be a little bit bricky. Let's see, we also have Nibiru. Again, a cross-out target. We lose pretty hard to Nibiru if we don't have the Adventure Engine up. We have the double Call by the Grave, cross-out Designator, and double Infinite Impermanence. So some other considerations for the main deck. I was playing the Sangan Engine plus Crusadia Arborea at some point. I felt that there was too many normal summons in the deck, so I cut it down to just the 9 one-card starters, just for that reason. What's great is that you can use a lot of the hand traps plus Adventure Engine to combo if you don't draw a one-card starter. Yeah, if you draw any tuner hand trap, that can kind of save you there. So I found the consistency to be to my liking, but you can tailor it however you want. You can play more one-card starters. I also tried Quick Draw Synchron as an extender if your Halq gets stopped, but this doesn't really do anything if they just hold the Impermanence or Effect Failure for the HalqDon itself. Triple Tactical Talents could also be pretty good in this deck. I haven't really experimented that much with it, but it could help you draw into the Adventure Engine. I think it could be pretty good. I was also testing out Lightning Storm or Forbidden Droplet, so you could opt for those as well instead of some hand traps potentially. Alrighty, next let's go into the extra deck. So we got one Time Wizard of Tomorrow, the one responsible for actually burning the opponent for the FTK. Got Thunder Dragon Colossus. This is a backup card, so this is cuttable. You're just gonna use this to, when the FTK fails essentially, or when you draw a hard Garnet and can't complete the FTK. Cupid Pitch is really broken. You can, the damage is essential in the combo, as well as the search. So it's just really good. Denglong also stupidly broken. Get your max advantage off of it to form the FTK. Garden Rose Maiden, another FTK enabler, search as Black Garden. And we also use the second effect too, actually, as part of the FTK to summon a dragon from grave, a Synchro Dragon. Muddy Mud Dragon lets you summon the Time Wizard of Tomorrow. We got Odd Eyes, Meteor Burst Dragon, and our Festival Superstar. So this is actually a pretty interesting line, I think, where we're going to scale the Zafraxi and then summon Odd Eyes to summon it, and you'll see how that works out. But and the fact that he's a Synchro Dragon is very important as well. Next we have Baxia. This is required as part of the combo, but it's also really amazing going second. Just to help clean up the board. Just overall amazing card. Borreload Sour Dragon, also technically not required for the FTK, but is generally, I would say, not cuttable. This is definitely your plan B, and you want this in your extra deck for sure. Next we have Sword Soul Grandmaster Chi Xiao. A really good card. It's part of the FTK, and also going first. If you fail to find the FTK, then you can just leave him up as a negate. Next up we have Cheng Ying. This card is cuttable. I opted to play this over Baron de Fleur. I'm not sure which one would come up, but I feel like just for weird cases, I don't know, quote-unquote unoutable cards, this could maybe out it, because it's a non-targeting banish, and also can gain attack if needed. So I felt like this could fill that slot, but you could definitely cut this for something else. Galaxy Tomahawk, bannable card, banned in the TCG. It's part of the FTK. Great Almirage, also needed for the FTK. And finally, we have Crystron, Halqa, Fibrax, and Mecham Phantom Beast HalqDon, the stars of the show here. And I'm super glad that Crystal HalqDon is going to be banned, because stuff like this is really degenerate. But I was actually going to post this video as advocacy for HalqDon's ban, but it seems like that is no longer needed. So, anyway, let's jump into a replay and see how the deck functions. Alrighty, so we're jumping into the replay here. This was during the Duelist Cup. I was experimenting with this deck in the Duelist Cup, although I didn't have as much time as I wanted to for it. Alright, so we're going to start off with Water Enchantress. Going to grab Fateful Adventure, or Rite of Aramis here, into Fateful Adventure we already have in our hand. Next, we're going to Fossil Dig. Grab our one card starter, HalqDon, and use that to add the Draco back. I just need a discard. We don't need it, but helps keep card advantage up. Next, we're going to summon the Griffin Rider. And now we're completely insulated from any interaction. Well, at least insulating against one-hand trout. Next, we're going to go into Almirage, use HalqDon, grab the Galaxy Serpent, go into HalqDon. So glad this card will be gone soon. Halq into Jet Synchron, link those off into Auroradon. Auroradon effect, grab our 3 tokens. Then we're going to use Auroradon's effect to summon Olion. You know the drill, go into Danglong. This is pretty typical of, 10U Synchro deck, or 10U Adventure deck that's was floating around this season. And we're going to, chain link 1 Danglong to block it from Ash Blossom. So we're going to search the Zafraxi. We're going to send the Taya, so this is very important. It's very important that we send Taya to the graveyard so we can bring it back with the Sword Soul Monster Reborn and then banish it for Taya's effect. So that'll be coming up later in the combo. And these star lines work out pretty well so that we can scale up the Zafraxi, and then we have a level 4 and a level 3 to make Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, so we can actually summon the Zafraxi back. And the reason why we need to summon the Zafraxi is so we can do our worm combos, because the worm synchros that we need require non-tuner worm monsters, so you'll see how that goes in just a second. As I said, we're going to go into Odd Eyes Meteor Burst. We're going to do Danglong Chain Link 1, again, chain blocking it. Meteor Burst's second effect is actually sometimes comes up to where it can negate monsters in the battle phase, or OTKing going second. Alright, so we're going to summon Cupid Pitch, increase the level, and now we have a non-tuner worm to go into Chi-Xiao. Cupid Pitch has to be Chain Link 1 here because it is a mandatory effect. Chi-Xiao will grab Sword Soul Sacred Summit, the Monster Reborn. Cupid Pitch inflicts 800 damage. That's very important too, because in order for Speed Burst Dragon to reflect damage, you have to take the damage first. So we're going to be inflicting a bit over 7,200 damage, so that we won't die, but then when we reflect the damage, our opponent will die. So that's very important, and super glad that that kind of works out. We're bringing back Taya, banishing the Summit. And again, like I said, we need to trigger that summon effect. We're going to decrease Chi-Xiao's level. So now we have 2 level 7s, and you can probably see where this is going. But first we have to make Baxi get the token off the field, so we can do an Excuse summon. Going to Galaxy Tomahawk. Galaxy target itself, so we can bring back Taya. We just need any level 4 monster that's not a non-tuner. Then we can bring back Chi-Wen. Go into a level 5, which will be Garden Rose Maiden here. Search Black Garden. Next, we're going to use Jet Synchron. So we're going to do this first just so that the number of tokens and monster slots work out, essentially. Alright, so this is very important. When we use Galaxy a Tomahawk to summon tokens, here we're only summoning 1 token, but this is because we have the Adventure Engine up. So if you'll notice, the Adventure Engine, Token, and Griffin Rider both have 2,000 attack points. If we don't have this up, and we use Tomahawk's effect, we'll still get 2 additional monsters with 2,000 attack to replace these 2. So the FTK still works obviously without the Adventure Engine or with it. So that's, that was my goal really, is to create an FTK that worked with and without the Adventure Engine. So all right, so the rest of this is just kind of finishing up our plays while giving our opponent some Rose tokens. So here we're going into Mud Dragon. Gonna make our boy Time Wizard of Tomorrow with the Spent Tomahawk. Get a 4th Rose token, then we're gonna use Garden Rose Maiden. Bring back the Oddies Meteor Burst. Get us a lot of attack on board, and that last Rose token. And that's all she wrote. Now we just need to use Time Wizard of Tomorrow's effect. We got it wrong, as you can see here. We're going to take 7250, but then we just reflect it with Speed Burst Dragon. And that'll get you game. So that's the FTK. So something to note. Once you get going, the only hand trap that will stop you even through Griffin Rider is Effect Failure. If they Effect Failure Time Wizard of Tomorrow while you have Griffin Rider, because then you won't have enough attack for Time Wizard of Tomorrow to kill, because Griffin will shuffle itself back. So that is something to keep in mind. But for the most part, I mean, they'll probably use Veiler earlier in the combo, so I don't think that's really something to worry about. Plus, it's getting banned, so it is what it is. They can't, something. No, they can't imperm the Time Wizard Tomorrow because you'll give them tokens, so they'll have cards. Like I said earlier, Black Garden kind of interferes with that. Alrighty, so that's really all I had for this deck. I would have maybe showed some additional replays of, going second and whatnot, but that's going to be banned. I don't know how important that'll be. Here's a little bonus replay I just thought was funny. I had it while during the Duelist Cup. So this was a replay. I was going second. My opponent's on Pendulum. So not too much to say here. They're just going into their, Electromite play. I don't know Pendulum that well, but they're doing their Pendulum plays. So I'm just like, oh, this is just Pendulum, whatever. But I later come to find out this is actually the FTK version of Pendulum. Doing their pen summon a bunch of guys. Here comes Supreme King. And they go into Verte, they're going to go into Independent Nightingale. Instant Fusion. And they're going to copy it with Supreme Dragons. Try to kill me. However, I have the Speed Burst Dragon for my own FTK. So then I can gain some health back and inflict 4,000 to them. They're only down to 2k. They failed to kill me. I draw droplets for turn. So then I just run into the Verte, damage step, droplet, and attack for game. I just thought it was really funny that, my FTK Garnet allowed me to prevent my opponent's FTK. So, yeah, that was, I thought that was pretty funny. Alrighty, so that's all I had for today. like and subscribe. I'm going to try to post more videos on here. Also follow my Twitch at twitch.tv/GoDB. I'm going to try to stream some Yu-Gi-Oh on there sometime. And yeah, see you guys later. Bye bye.